I want to move on now to Notre Dame in France, which was itself went up in flames several years ago in 2015 and finally restored. If you remember, there were all these Rita madcap plans. We covered them on Outsiders. They were going to stick a fun fair on top and gardens and all sorts of
the horrors
weird,
of modern architecture were going to be inflicted on this magnificent cathedral. Anyone who's been to Notre Dame, it is absolutely
stunning,
glorious. And it's so good that it's been restored, and it's been restored to its original form. And curiously, of course, Emmanuel Macron is there, world leaders are there, President-elect Trump. I say president-elect, but for all intents and purposes,
he's the president.
Seems to be the
he
president.
is the president now.
He is
President Trump. Let's forget the word elect. President Trump is there.
And he greeted his fellow world leaders. You know who's not there? The Catholic President Joe Biden. Jill's there, Dr. Jill. And
the
also
shadow president.
The Pope. The Pope is not there. Now, I understand he had prior engagements. He's a busy man. But this, I would have thought, Ryan, was a fairly significant event. And for the Pope not to be there, I think, is a little bit of a worry.
Well, we used to ask, a rhetorical question, is the Pope Catholic? Well, the answer now is no. So I presume bears are no longer defecating in the woods either. James, we've seen Donald Trump really has become the president. He stepped straight into it. The election's over. The world is coming to him. Trudeau was there this week. Others are rallying around to see him. It's like one of those scenes at The Godfather, James, where suddenly they all come to see the man who they know is in charge. Great. There he is. The rest of the world has recognised that the next 4 years is going to be a renaissance of the West. It's the renaissance of the Western power. It's the renaissance of Western civilization. It's going to be a glorious period for employment, for prosperity. We're going to slay this woke dragon. That's gone. That's finished. And those leaders still clinging on to their woke credentials like Albo and that, they're gone as well. Their history, you may as well write them off as well. Peter Dutton will win the next election. Anyway, I'm jumping ahead of myself there. James, what did you make? Donald Trump, he's there. They're all coming to see him.
It's a wonderful metaphor, isn't it? Because one of the first events that Donald Trump attends overseas, not yet the president, I mean, the current president was asleep in Africa at that African Congress meeting. And the vice president currently is just making drunken videos. But Trump's first overseas trip is for the restoration of a magnificent church. And I think the symbolism is quite profound there. And, of course, Trump is already telling Hamas they need to get their house sorted, get the hostages released, otherwise all hell will be loosed. He'll meet with Zelensky while he's in Paris. So Trump is already behaving not just like the president, but the leader of the free world. You've got Justin Trudeau rushed to Mar-a-Lago the other day to meet with Trump just to try and sort things out on the northern border with threat of tariffs being hanging over his head.
I did love Donald Trump's response when it came to Justin Trudeau. Apparently, part of the discussion that got leaked by people who were present at the table was Trudeau was complaining about these tariffs, and Trump said, well, if you can't handle something this minor, perhaps Canada should become the 51st state of the US.
Which sent them all in their crazy land, the lefties.
Yeah, and you can be Governor Trudeau. You can be the governor of this latest state. And then he posted a meme of himself looking supposedly at Canada, an II image. And again, that sent the leftist media into a spin. But you know what? All the hysteria, all the...
There it is. What a great shot. That's so good.
None of it matters anymore. No one is listening to the hysterical leftist media other than their diminishing little circle of, echo chamber dwellers. The rest of the country, and the election showed that, because the coverage of Trump was overwhelmingly negative. 90% plus of the coverage of Trump was negative, and yet in the end, it didn't have the impact it would have had in previous elections. People have stopped listening. They have cried wolf too many times.
Absolutely.
And they just don't believe them anymore.
There's a massive message here for Australia, and every Australian business person in particular, but every Australian has to realise that our coming election, which will be before May, could be as early as February, our coming election will either set Australia up to be right there as part of that renaissance of the West with the coalition government in place, on side with the Trump agenda, or we'll be like Luddites stuck in the kind of dark ages of the past. If we re-elect the Teals, the Greens and Labor, we are forcing this country to be shackled to the past, to be separated from the great renaissance of the West that is occurring. We will be complete idiots. We will be floundering in our woke little cesspit of left-wing ideology. This is a really critical moment for Australia, and we've got to start thinking of it in those terms, James.